What do you do for a living? Such a standard question, isn't it?
Yeah, it comes up all the time.
But, for so many people, the answer feels like it's tied to this routine that isn't really fulfilling. It often feels like you're just stuck, right? Trading your time, your most valuable thing, for just enough money to keep going.
It's a tough reality. And our source material really kicks off with Grant Sabatier describing his own moment like that, a real cold, hard look at reality, as he puts it.
What happened with him?
Well, he was broke, completely out of money, back living with his parents. And he had this realization that, Job Charming wasn't going to magically appear and save him.
Oof, been there.
Right. He talks about feeling like he was just drifting, knowing he'd drown if he didn't change direction. And that feeling, it connects to something much bigger. There was that Gallup survey in 2017.
Oh, yeah.
Found that something like 70% of U.S. employees are disengaged at work. Just not feeling it.
70%. That's huge.
It is. And financially. Often even bleaker. Another stat, 69% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings. Basically one unexpected bill away from real trouble. Wow. And for millennials, it's often tougher. Average income around $35K, but carrying maybe $36K in student loans. Plus, the whole uncertainty around things like Social Security.
Yeah.
It makes you ask, is this really the only way? Just work until you drop.
That's the big question, isn't it? But this deep dive, it's not just about outlining the problem. It's about digging into a solution, a really potentially radical one.
Exactly. Grant Sabatier's book lays out this blueprint, a strategy, a philosophy, really, for getting all the money you'll ever need, and often much, much faster than people think.
And the key thing, which I found really interesting, is that it's not just about being super frugal, cutting every single corner. That's where a lot of advice stops, right?
Right. This goes further. It's about actively, strategically maximizing every chance you have to earn, every hour, every opportunity. That's how you accelerate things.
It builds on some classic ideas too, doesn't it?
It really does. What's cool is Vicki Robin, from Your Money or Your Life.
The classic, yeah.
She actually endorses this book. She points out that it fills a gap. Her own work didn't fully cover back then. They talked about maximizing income, sure, but not the how.
Why not?
Well, she admits, pretty frankly, that she and her co-author hadn't actually worked for money in 2 decades by that point.
Oh. Fair enough.
So Grant's focus on how to maximize income, especially with today's opportunities, is kind of the next evolution. It brings those core principles into the now.
Okay, so for you listening, what's the plan here? Our mission for this deep dive is to pull out the absolute must-know stuff from the foundation of this approach. We're covering basically chapters 1 through 14 of the source.
Yeah, the real core ideas.
We want to help you get the mechanics behind the money, understand why this stuff actually works, and crucially, how you can start getting results, fast. It's all about getting control over your time, ultimately. So let's dive in. Shattering the traditional narrative. Why work doesn't equal earning money.
Okay, so to really get this, we kind of have to go back to Grant's own wake-up call. That moment, he really got the whole time for money trade-off. He paints this picture of his first job. It sounds pretty soul-crushing.
Oh, it does. Sterile office park, right? 2-hour commute each way.
Ugh.
Windows sealed shut, stale air, fluorescent lights, and a tiny 4-foot cubicle.
A classic cubicle farm.
Exactly. He talks about being super anxious, wanting to do well, but just being completely drained by the time he got home. Eating out of boredom, gaining weight, couldn't sleep because he was dreading the next day.
Sounds miserable.
Alarm at 4:50 a.m. Dragging himself out of bed.
Oh.
Staring at the clock on his computer, just watching minutes crawl by. Totally disengaged. And his dad's advice, welcome to the real world. Kind of bleak encouragement. Yeah, that doesn't exactly inspire confidence. And the actual numbers were pretty stark too, weren't they?
Brutal. In just 6 months, he calculated he traded 1,400 hours of his life.
1,400 hours.
For about $15,500 after taxes. And the kicker? He ended up $12,000 in credit card debt.
How does that even happen?
It just shows that cycle, right? Living paycheck to paycheck, the whole work hard, play hard thing.
Yeah.
Spending recklessly on weekends just to cope with the stress of the week. He even mentions having debilitating anxiety attacks, thought his heart was going to stop.
Oh.
It was this harsh realization. His best hours, his best years were just vanishing with every paycheck. No real progress, nothing better on the horizon.
And he connects that personal hell to this bigger picture, right? This narrative that keeps people stuck working for decades longer than maybe they need to.
Yeah, exactly. He realized that, doing everything I was supposed to do wouldn't guarantee anything, even retirement. This idea that you just put your head down, follow the path. But what if the path itself is flawed? For him, it clearly wasn't working, and you see that echoed everywhere.
So what is the real cost of just blindly following that traditional script? Work hard, save a little, hope for the best in 40 years.
Well, the book points out this pretty shocking statistic. Almost half of Americans over 55 haven't even really thought about what they want to do in retirement.
Really? Half?
Yeah, they're working towards this vague, undefined future. It's not just a money problem. It's a life planning problem, a purpose problem.
That ties into Bronnie Ware's work, doesn't it? The regrets of the dying.
Absolutely. Her book is so powerful. She was a palliative care nurse, right? Listen to people in their final weeks.
Yeah.
And the top 2 regrets she heard over and over. Number 1, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me.
Oof, that hits hard.
And number 2, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. It's just heartbreaking. Deferring your life for work often leads to this deep, irreversible regret. Grant mentions his dad's neighbors, retired after 40 years, and now they just kind of pick up sticks in their yard.
That's a sad image for retirement.
It really is. And it forces you to rethink work, Fundamentally, work is what we do for all sorts of reasons. Love, curiosity, contribution, learning, service, self-development, all that good stuff.
Right, not just for a paycheck.
Exactly. Most of the world's actual work has nothing to do with money. Recognizing that difference is key. It's about escaping what the source calls wage slavery, working just because you have to financially, and moving towards owning your time, having your money work for you, choosing your work.
Which leads to this really fundamental shift in thinking that Grant emphasizes. It sounds simple, but it changes everything. Money is unlimited, time is not.
That's the core insight, isn't it? It flips the script.
How?
Well, think about typical personal finance advice. It's often so focused on scarcity, right? Cut back, save pennies, manage the limited money you have.
Yeah, the defensive game.
Exactly. But it often ignores the fact that money is only limited if you don't actively try to make more. And crucially, the link between time and money. It's not always linear. You don't necessarily have to trade more hours to earn more dollars.
Ah, okay. So you can decouple time from income.
Precisely. And that understanding, that's the foundation for adopting what he calls an enterprise mindset. Actively looking for ways to generate wealth that aren't just tied to you clocking in and out. Charting your course, calculating your number.
Okay, so if you're listening and thinking, right, I want to change things, what's the absolute first step? Where do you even start on this path?
You need a destination. Grant calls it your number. It's the specific amount of money you need to hit financial freedom.
Your personal finish line.
Exactly. And the surprising thing for a lot of people, it's probably way less money than you think.
Okay, less than I think. But how do you figure it out? Is it just a guess?
No, there's a method. A common guideline, rule of thumb really, is the 25 times your annual expenses rule. 25
times expenses, okay. Where does that come from?
It's often linked to something called the Trinity study. Researchers look back at decades of U.S. stock market performance from like 1926 to 1997.
Wow, long time frame.
Yeah, to figure out what kind of withdrawal rate from your investments would likely last through retirement. So 25 times expenses implies roughly a 4% withdrawal rate.
Got it. Is 25 times set in stone?
It's a guideline. The source notes some early retirees aim higher, maybe 30 times or more, just for an extra cushion. But Grant himself felt comfortable with 25 times.
Why only 25?
He mentions having a cash buffer, like a full year of expenses saved separately. Plus, he had side income streams and, crucially, skills he knew he could use to earn more if needed. It depends on your risk tolerance and backup plans.
What blew my mind was the point about age. The younger you are, the less you might need to save initially. That seems backwards.
It does. But it's the magic of compounding. If you save, say, $1 million by the time you're 30.
Ambitious, but okay.
Right, ambitious. But if you hit that number and you can live off maybe 3-4% withdrawals, adjusted for inflation, that initial million could easily grow to 3 or 4 million by the time you're 60, even while you're spending from it.
Whoa. Okay, that makes starting early seem incredibly important.
It's huge. Time is your biggest ally in investing.
So practically speaking, how do you calculate your number? What expenses do you use? Future ones, current ones?
The recommendation is to use your current annual expenses. It's just easier to track what you're spending now. And for most folks aiming for financial independence in, say, the next 5-10 years, your core lifestyle expenses probably won't change dramatically.
Makes sense.
The source gives some average U.S. household spending numbers from 2016. Total was around $57,000. Housing was the biggest chunk, almost $19K, then transportation, $20K, then food, $7K. Those three alone were over 60% of the average budget.
So targeting those big three gives you the most leverage.
Absolutely. And there are tools-mentioned websites that can automatically pull your spending data, or you can just use a spreadsheet if you want to really dig in manually.
So this is where you, listening, need to take a really honest look at your spending. Not about guilt, but about awareness. What actually brings you joy, meaning fulfillment.
Exactly. The goal isn't deprivation. If that $3 daily coffee truly makes your morning better, and you know what it costs in terms of time and future value, go for it. But maybe that huge car payment or the giant house, maybe those aren't bringing as much value as you think.
Can you give an example of that trade-off?
Sure. Think about a $60,000 car. If your real after-tax hourly wage is, say, $30.
We'll get to calculating that later, I assume.
We will. But if it's 30 hour, that $60 K car costs you 2,000 hours of your life. That's a full year of work.
An entire year for a car.
Wow. Is it worth it? Maybe for some. But it forces you to see the trade. Contrast that with Steve, one of the early retirees mentioned. He hit financial independence at 35 with about $890,000 saved. How, remember? By living leaner. He and his wife lived in an Airstream, kept expenses under $40K a year. They valued time and freedom more than fancy stuff.
It shows your number is really tied to your desired lifestyle. Okay, but what about big one-off future costs, like kids' college tuition? How do you factor that in? You can't just add $200K to your number.
Right, that would inflate it unnecessarily. This is where the present value formula comes in. It sounds complicated, but the idea is simple. How much money do you need to invest today to have a specific amount in the future, assuming a certain growth rate?
Okay, give me the formula again.
It's PV equals FV times 1 divided by 1 plus R to the power of N. PV is present value, FV is future value, R is your expected rate of return, and N is the number of years.
Okay, example time.
Let's say you estimate needing $80,000 for college in 15 years, and you expect your investments to grow at 7% per year. Using the formula, you'd find you only need to set aside about $28,995 today. That amount, invested at 7%, should grow to your 80-80 target.
Ah, okay. So you calculate the present value of those future goals and add that to your main number based on current expenses.
Exactly. It makes the target much more accurate and achievable.
Now, another huge factor, location, location, location. How much does where you live affect your number?
Massively. It's often the single biggest variable.
Yeah.
The source talks about the cost of living index, or COLI.
Right.
Grant uses the example. His expenses in Chicago were around $50K a year. If you moved to New York City, where the cost of living multiplier was like 2.35,
well,
his annual expenses would shoot up to $117,500. To hit his 25 times number based on that spending, he'd need an extra $1.68 million, almost $3 million total just because of the city change.
that's insane. It really highlights the cost of living in certain places.
It does, and it leads directly into this powerful strategy called geographic arbitrage.
Which isn't just moving states necessarily.
Right. It could be moving to a cheaper city or state, sure. But it can also mean moving to a different country with a much lower cost of living, lower inflation, maybe lower taxes. Christy and Bryce did this retired super early, in their 30s, partly by living in countries cheaper than Canada. Your money just goes so much further.
So it's about making these conscious, sometimes adventurous lifestyle choices to optimize the finances.
Exactly. Making your location work for you.
Okay, so connecting this all back to accelerating the journey, how do other income streams like side hustles or rentals play into calculating your number?
They can reduce it dramatically. This is huge.
How does the math work?
Okay, say you need $50,000 a year to live comfortably. That implies a target number of $1.25 million, 50K times 25.
Right.
But let's say you build a side hustle that reliably brings in $2,000 a month after taxes. That's $24,000 a year.
Okay.
Now, you only need your investments to cover the remaining $26,000 of your expenses, 50K minus 24K. So your new target number becomes $26,000 times 25, which is only $650,000.
Wait, that side income just slashed the target number by $600,000?
Exactly. That $2,000 a month reduced the amount you need saved by over $500,000. Even a consistent $200 a month extra income, that knocks $60,000 off your target. $200 by 12 months by 25.
That's incredible. Any reliable income stream makes a massive difference.
Huge. It directly lowers the mountain you need to climb with your investments. And 3, your financial compass. Net worth and smart debt management.
All right, so you figured out your number. How do you actually track your progress towards it? What's the key metric you should be watching?
Your net worth, hands down. The source calls it the most important personal finance number to track.
And just to recap, net worth is?
Simple. Assets minus liabilities.
Yeah.
What you own minus what you owe. Cash, investments, your house equity, those are assets. Debts like credit cards, student loans, mortgages, those are liabilities.
And you should track this how often? Daily? Weekly?
The advice is regularly. Daily, if you can stomach it, or at least weekly. It gives you that clear, instant snapshot of where you stand financially.
Does tracking it that often become obsessive? Or is there a benefit?
The idea is that it actually becomes motivating, almost addictive, in a good way.
How so?
Seeing that number tick up maybe by $10 one day, $100 the next, maybe even $1,000 on a good market day, it reinforces your saving and investing habits. It's like your personal score in the money game. And because of compounding, the growth starts to accelerate, makes the progress tangible.
The book gives Julie's example, right? To show how it provides clarity.
Yeah, Julie, 30 years old, works in IT, has a side business, aiming for a $1 million financial independence goal. She's saving, doing the right things.
Right.
But when you look at her net worth, she has about $412,000 in assets, which sounds great. But she also has $256,000 in liabilities. Credit cards, student loans, mortgage, car loan, a bit of everything.
So her net worth is actually?
Only about $155,700. It just highlights how important it is to look at the whole picture, assets and debts. You need that transparency, even if the starting number feels low or daunting. The path is still there.
Okay, so that brings us to debt. If liabilities are dragging down your net worth, how should you tackle them? What's the priority?
The advice is really clear and simple. Pay down the debt with the highest interest rate first.
Not the smallest balance or the biggest?
Nope. Highest rate. Think about those credit cards charging 15%, 20%, maybe even more. That interest is accumulating incredibly fast, likely way faster than your investments can grow. It's actively working against you. So target the highest rate first, mathematically.
Okay, that makes sense. But here's where the advice gets interesting, because it kind of goes against the grain of what you often hear.
You mean the idea of paying off all debt before saving?
Exactly. A lot of gurus say become totally debt-free first. But this source argues that's often a bad idea. Why?
Because of the opportunity cost.
Yeah.
While you're busy throwing every spare penny at, say, a mortgage with a super low interest rate, like Grant's 2.625% mortgage.
Yeah, that's crazy low.
Right. While you're paying that down aggressively, you're missing out on potentially much higher returns you could be getting in a stock market, which historically averages, 7% or more long-term.
Ah, so you're losing out on the difference.
Precisely. Grant chose to keep that low-interest mortgage and invest the extra money instead, aiming for higher returns and keeping the tax benefits of the mortgage. The principle is, if the debt interest rate is way higher than realistic investment returns, attack the debt. But if it's low, investing often makes more mathematical sense.
Is there any debt situation where investing isn't the priority? Like a non-negotiable?
Yes. Absolutely. One non-negotiable rule: always contribute enough to your company's 401k to get the full employer match.
Why is that so critical?
Because it's literally free money. If your company matches 50% or 100% of your contribution up to a certain point, that's an immediate 50% or 100% return on your money. You will never beat that return guaranteed in the market. Not getting the match is just leaving money on the table, period.
Okay, good rule. Now, switching gears slightly. Investing isn't just numbers, right? There's a huge emotional component. Grant shares some pretty relatable early freakouts.
Oh, yeah. His first real stock purchase, put in $3,000, lost $500 the first day.
Ouch.
He couldn't stop checking his phone, totally obsessed. A week later, he was down almost $1,200, panicked, and sold it all.
And then what happened?
Of course, the stock price more than doubled later on. Classic mistake driven by fear. He also talks about losing $10,000 in the market in 1 week early on and just freaking out.
So how do you manage that emotional roller coaster?
The key insight from the source is realizing that a loss isn't real until you sell. You have to play the long game, keep emotions in check.
Easier said than done sometimes.
For sure. But Grant describes his own evolution, from panicking over a few $1,000s to being, in his words, cool as a cucumber. When his much larger portfolio dropped $50,000 in a week later on, he understood it was just noise in the long-term upward trend. Experience helps build that emotional resilience.
And interestingly, the advice is to actually engage with your money daily, not hide from it. How does that help emotionally?
It seems counterintuitive, right? Like checking daily would make you more anxious.
Yeah.
But the argument is that spending just a few minutes each day looking at your accounts, tracking your net worth, it actually helps you stay grounded.
How?
It desensitizes you a bit to the daily fluctuations. It keeps you informed, helps you evaluate risk more calmly, and ultimately leads to better, less emotional decisions. That consistent, small touch point builds control over time. 4. Mastering the levers of wealth. Income, savings, and expenses.
Okay, let's boil wealth building down. Grant talks about 3 basic levers you can pull. What are they?
Super simple, really. Income, how much you make. Savings, how much you save and invest. And expenses, how much you spend.
Income, savings, expenses. Got it.
And the basic strategy is obvious, right?
Yeah.
Increase income, increase savings, decrease expenses.
If it's that simple, why isn't everyone doing it perfectly? Where does a lot of this standard advice fall short?
Well, this brings up a really important point. The source argues that most personal finance advice focuses way too much on just cutting expenses. The defense.
The frugality aspect.
Exactly. And look, cutting expenses is crucial, it's powerful, but there's a limit, right? You can only cut so much before you feel totally deprived, or you're literally, living in a box somewhere.
True. There's a floor.
There's a floor to expenses, but theoretically, no ceiling on income. And ultimately, the amount you can save is capped by how much you make. You can't save 50% of your income if your income barely covers necessities.
So focusing on increasing income, the offense becomes much more powerful for speeding things up.
Way more powerful, especially if you want to reach financial freedom faster.
Okay, so if income is vital, what's the single most important rate or percentage that determines how quickly you reach your financial freedom number?
That would be your savings rate. It's the percentage of your total income, pre-tax, after-tax, everything that you are actively saving and investing.
And that rate directly impacts the timeline.
Directly. The higher your savings rate, the faster you hit your number. It's almost pure math, regardless of what your specific number target is.
The book gives some pretty amazing examples of people hitting financial independence early because of sky-high savings rates.
Oh, yeah, really inspiring stories. There's Anita, the lawyer. She saved 85% of her income.
85%? How?
By living on less than $25,000 a year. She hit $700,000 by age 33.
Wow. Okay. Who else?
Stephen Courtney, they worked in IT, saved 70%, hit $890K by 35, now they're over $1 million. Christy and Bryce, also 70% savers, hit $1 million by 32. JP in New York City saved over 80%, hit $2.5 million by 28.
28. Okay, that's wild.
Brandon saved up to 85%, reached FI by 34. Grant himself saved over 60% consistently from his job and side hustles to hit his $1.25 million. It just shows a high savings rate is the common thread. It's the accelerator.
Let's put some numbers on that. If someone's aiming for, say, $1.25 million and wants to do it in 15 years, what does the savings rate look like?
Okay, assuming about a 7% average annual return, you'd need to save roughly $50,000 per year.
$50K a year.
Right. Now, if you earn $200,000 after tax, that's a 25% savings rate. Very achievable, leaves you $150K to live on. If you earn $100, that's a 50% savings rate. Tougher, but doable for many, especially if motivated.
But if you earn less?
That's the challenge. If you earn $50,000 a year, saving $50,000 is, impossible. You wouldn't have anything left to live on.
Yeah.
It really underscores why boosting income is so critical if you want to save aggressively.
This brings us back to spending, but from a different angle. What's the true cost of something you buy? It's not just the price tag, is it?
Not at all. You're paying with your time, your life energy, and you're paying with the lost future value of that money if it had been invested instead. Every purchase is a trade-off against future freedom.
How do you quantify that time cost?
The source introduces this concept of your real hourly rate. And it's not just your salary divided by 40 hours.
Right. You mentioned this earlier. It includes everything work-related.
Everything. Commuting time, time spent getting ready, buying work clothes, unwinding or de-stressing because of work. All of it. The average American commute adds up to almost 28 extra unpaid work days a year.
That's crazy when you frame it like that.
Grant tells the story of his friend, the consultant, making $250 a year. Sounds amazing, right?
Yeah, $250,000.
But after factoring in all the travel, the long hours, the real after-tax hourly rate, it was only about $35 an hour.
Ouch. That changes the perspective entirely.
It did for him. He quit that job a few months later.
Yeah.
It forces you to value your time properly.
So to help with this, the book gives some questions you should ask before buying anything. What are they?
Yeah, a really useful framework. 4 key questions. 1, how much of my life am I trading for it? Divide the price by your real after-tax hourly rate. Grant calculated a $3 coffee cost him almost 17 minutes of his life. 2, how much money do I have to make to afford this pre-tax? Because you buy things with after-tax money. If you're in a 25% tax bracket, that $3 coffee means you had to earn $4 before taxes. That $40,000 car, you might have had to earn over $53,000 pre-tax.
Right, the growth up.
3, how much would this cost me each year or for the rest of my life? Great for recurring costs, subscriptions, maintenance, that kind of thing.
Puts things in perspective.
4, how much time, freedom is this buying me in the future? This is Grant's personal calculation. He figured every $25 he saved bought him 1 day of future freedom. So he could ask, is this purchase worth X days of my future freedom?
That's a powerful way to frame it. Trading today's impulse for tomorrow's freedom.
And the final nail in the coffin for mindless spending, the future value. That $3 daily coffee habit adds up to $1,095 a year. Invested at 7% for 30 years.
What does it become?
Over $120,000 from coffee.
Wow. Okay. That definitely makes you think twice.
It really shifts your mindset from just spending dollars to investing potential future wealth and freedom.
So if you want to make the biggest dent in expenses, where should you focus? We touched on this.
The big 3: housing, transportation, food. Remember, for the average American household, those make up over 60% of all spending.
So small changes there have a big impact.
Huge impact. Cutting those 3 categories in half could save the average household an extra $17,500 a year. Invest that monthly amount. Could grow to over $835,000 in 20 years.
That's massive.
Grant's personal example, moving from a $1,500 a month apartment to a $700 a month one. That single decision saved him $25,000 initially. That $25K invested is now worth over $100K and projected to be worth over $760,000 in 30 years.
One move. Buying years, maybe decades of freedom.
Exactly. Targeting the big rocks makes the biggest difference.
B.
Accelerating your journey. Income optimization.
Okay, we've covered defense controlling expenses, but like you said, there's a limit. To really speed things up, you need offense. You need to boost income. And that often starts with your main gig, right? Your 9 to 5.
Absolutely. Your full-time job isn't just a salary. The source calls it an incredible income opportunity and a launching pad. You need to squeeze every bit of value out of it.
Beyond the paycheck, what kind of perks are we talking about maximizing?
There's a whole bunch, often overlooked. Paid learning opportunities, free skills development, networking, built-in connections, insurance, often heavily subsidized, which is like free money compared to buying it privately.
Right, health insurance especially.
Huge. And then the tax-advantaged accounts. We mentioned the 401k match. Always get the match. But also things like health savings accounts, HSAs.
Ah, yes, the triple tax advantage.
Exactly. Pre-tax contributions, tax-free growth, and tax-free withdrawals for medical expenses. Plus, after 65, it basically acts like a traditional IRA for any expense. Super powerful.
What else? FSAs?
Flexible spending accounts, yeah. Good for predictable medical costs, use pre-tax dollars, but they usually use it or lose it each year. And dependent care FSAs lets you pay for childcare with up to $5 in pre-tax money. Huge savings for parents.
Seriously, just understanding your benefits package can be worth thousands.
Easily. The book suggests a 30-minute meeting with HR can have a massive return on investment.
Okay, what about negotiating beyond the standard stuff, things that give you more leverage or time?
This is where it gets really interesting. Negotiating flexibility, especially remote work.
Why is that so valuable?
Think about it. It often costs the employer nothing, but it can drastically boost your productivity by cutting commutes, allowing deeper focus. And it gives you back time. Time you can use for side hustles, learning, whatever. The more valuable you are, the more leverage you have to negotiate this. Drew's story is extreme, working from Everest Base Camp.
Yeah, probably not typical.
Definitely not typical. But it shows the principle of negotiation power. More value equals more flexibility potential.
Okay, let's talk about the classic income booster, getting a raise. How much difference does a raise really make long-term?
It's way more significant than people realize. The source calculates that getting just a 1% bigger raise each year, compounded over 30 years, could add up to over $578,000 extra.
$500,000 from an extra 1% raise annually.
Yeah, because every future raise builds on your current salary. Yet most people are underpaid. That stat again. 89% think they deserve a raise, but only about half actually plan to ask. Huge missed opportunity.
So for someone listening who knows they deserve more, what's the game plan? How do you actually get the raise?
The book lays out a clear step-by-step process. It's really practical.
Oh, okay. Walk us through it.
1. Know your market value. Use sites like PayScale, Glassdoor. What are people with your skills and experience earning elsewhere? And crucially, what's your value to this company? What would it cost them to replace you?
Good point. 2.
2, document your impact. Go way beyond your job description. Quantify your achievements. Did you land big clients? Take on extra responsibility. Learn new skills. Cover for someone who left. Put numbers on it whenever possible.
Build your case with evidence. 3.
3, set your target percentage. Don't just ask for a raise. Aim for 10-15%, maybe even 20% or more if you're way below market rate. Ask high to leave room for negotiation.
Makes sense.
4, timing matters. Your annual review is obvious. But also consider the end of the fiscal year, after taking on more work due to turnover, or right after a big success. The source even mentions research suggesting Friday morning might be the best time.
Friday morning. Interesting. Okay, step 5.
5, craft your pitch. Start positive you enjoy the company, the role. Then lay out your documented case. Increase responsibilities, market value, maybe even mention recruiter interest if that's happened. State your desired percentage clearly. And then, this is key, be silent. Let them respond. Don't fill the silence.
That takes confidence.
It does. But remember, you likely have more leverage than you think. Good companies want to keep good people. Replacing you is expensive and disruptive. Don't undervalue yourself.
Okay, raises are great, but what about the long game? How do you continuously increase your earning potential over your career?
2 things, skills and network. Continuously build new in-demand skills and cultivate a strong professional network.
Like Grant's experience at that digital marketing agency.
Exactly. He didn't just do his job. He deliberately learned everything. Branding, copywriting, web design, SEO, crucially, how to sell. That diverse skill set made him incredibly valuable later on.
And the networking part.
He suggests a simple habit. Reach out to one new person every week for coffee or lunch. Just an hour. Over a year, that's 50+ new connections.
How does that translate to income?
It compounds. You start seeing patterns, connecting people, finding resources. Opportunities just naturally emerge. Grant estimates he made at least $250,000 in side hustle referrals just from those early connections he made over lunches. Plus, the best jobs often come through your network, not by blindly applying online.
Skills plus network equals money. Got it.
Okay, let's shift to income outside the 9-to-5. Side hustles. The book mentions Matt, the graphic designer.
Yeah, great example. Matt's 25, makes $55K as a graphic designer. Pretty standard. But his side hustle, a dog walking company he started in college, that brings in an extra $200,000 a year.
$200,000 walking dogs.
Whoa, running the company that walks dogs, that's the key distinction the book makes. Working for yourself versus for someone else.
Exactly. Matt could have made maybe $10, $15 an hour walking dogs for an existing service. But by starting his own company, hiring others, setting up an LLC, he multiplied his earning potential massively. He created semi-passive income streams. That's the enterprise mindset in action.
And Grant had his own side hustles too, right?
Oh, yeah. Building websites started as a $500 gig, eventually led to $50,000 projects. Flipping domain names, buying for under $50, selling for $2,500 or more, like a 4,900% return.
Yeah.
Running marketing campaigns, SEO projects, lots of different things.
But the big objection always comes up. I don't have time. How do you find time for a side hustle?
The source tackles this head on. It challenges you to really look at where your time goes. How much streaming, social media scrolling, could that time be repurposed?
Be honest with yourself.
Yeah. And it strongly advocates for using morning hours. Waking up 2-3 hours earlier than usual. That adds 10-15 focused, uninterrupted hours to your week. Perfect for building something before the day's chaos begins. Plus, learning to say no to things that don't align with your goals is crucial for freeing up time.
Okay, so you find the time. How do you actually pick a good side hustle, one that's likely to be profitable? There's a framework for this, right?
Yes, a really practical evaluation framework. 4 key parts. 1, your skills. What can you monetize? Think broadly. Maybe it's professional skills, like Tyler using his recruiting background. Or maybe it's something you teach yourself, like Grant learning web design from YouTube. The key, you only need to know more than the person you're selling to. We're in an age of constant learning.
Okay, skills. What's next?
Market demand and competition. Is there actually a need for what you offer? Use tools like Google Keyword Planner to check search volume. If it's crowded, how can you add unique value? Like Matt's dog walking, maybe offer earlier hours, grooming, training. Something to stand out.
Differentiate yourself. Makes sense. 3.
3, pricing and sales. How much should you charge? 6 factors here. Skill needed, demand, competitor prices, the added value you bring, the perceived value, and the client's ability to pay. The advice. Charge what the market will bear and aim for fewer, higher-paying clients. Managing 5 clients at $20 each is way easier than 500 clients at $200 each for the same revenue.
Focus on high value. And the last piece.
4, getting your first sale and references. This is critical for momentum. Have a decent website, tell your story, the About page matters, focus everything on landing that first client, then get feedback, make them happy, and ask them to be a reference. Grant's first Craigslist client led to $300K in referrals.
Happy clients are your best sales team.
It often starts small, just you, a solopreneur, but the real scaling happens when you become an entrepreneur, right? Hiring others. Yeah, that's the multiplier effect. Your business income is no longer limited by your own hours. It definitely adds stress managing people, more sales needed. But the source note's self-employed people often report higher happiness, more control, building your own thing. Though, like Matt the dog walker, you can choose your scale. He decided not to double his business to maintain work-life balance.
Right. It's about designing the life you want.
Ultimately, it always comes back to that time versus money trade-off. Investing time and effort now in building income streams buys you exponentially more freedom later. Investing for exponential growth, making your money work for you.
Okay, we've boosted income, optimized expenses. Now for the real magic multiplier, investing. The source calls investing income the ultimate passive income. It's how the wealthy get wealthy and stay wealthy, and it all hinges on compounding.
The craziest thing about money, as Grant puts it, we hear about compounding, but the numbers are just mind-bending when you see them over long periods.
Give us an example, make it real.
Okay, simple numbers. Invest $100. At a 10% annual return, after 1 year, it's $110. After 2 years, it's $121 you earned interest on the interest. Fine, but stretch that out. That single $100, untouched for 40 years at 10%.
Because it become?
Over $5,300, a 5,270% increase from just one $100 bill left alone.
Wow, without adding anything else.
Without adding a dime. Now, what if you added just $1 per month to that initial $100? Over 40 years, almost $12,000. It shows the power starting early and being consistent, even with small amounts.
It also highlights why Travis, the friend mentioned, who saved $3K a year for 20 years, ended up with $142K, good amount, but not enough for early retirement. He started too late or didn't save enough early on.
Exactly. That time horizon is critical.
But even if you save a decent amount, there's this hidden enemy eating away at it, right?
Inflation. The silent wealth killer.
Explain that simply.
It just means your money buys less over time. That 15-cent coffee from 1920 is over $2 now. Prices for essentials, housing, food, energy tend to creep up 2–4% per year on average. If your savings aren't growing faster than inflation, you're actually losing purchasing power. You're getting poorer slowly.
So how do you fight back? The source mentions an inflation shield.
Yeah, that ties back partly to geographic arbitrage. Christie and Bryce minimized inflation by living in countries with lower inflation than Canada. But the main shield is investing in assets that historically outpace inflation, like stocks.
What happens if you don't account for inflation?
Well, that example of the average American saving $470K over 40 years. After accounting for 2–3% inflation, its actual buying power today might only be around $144K.
Ouch.
Which, if you retire at 65 and live to 79, only gives you about $10K a year to live on. As the source bluntly says, we are way behind if we don't invest effectively to beat inflation.
Okay, so investing is crucial, but it can feel overwhelming. What's the absolute first rule before putting money anywhere?
Never, ever invest in anything you don't understand. Full stop.
Avoid the hype.
Avoid the hype, the trends, the too good to be true promises like guaranteed 20% returns. Stick to simple, understandable, consistent investments.
What about getting help? Financial advisors.
The advice here is very specific. Strongly prefer fee-only advisors. They charge by the hour or project. Avoid advisors who charge a percentage of your assets under management, AUM, usually 1–3%.
Why avoid the AUM model?
Because they take that percentage cut every year, whether your investments go up or down. That fee compounds against you over time. The book gives the example of Jim and Jane. That 2.2% fee cost them an estimated $1.5 million over 25 years compared to just using low-cost index funds. It's a massive hidden drag.
Wow. Okay, so stick to fee only if you need advice. What about basic, safer places to put money, like for emergencies?
Right. You need layers. Your emergency fund aim for 6 months of living expenses should be in something safe and liquid, like cash or a high-yield savings or a money market fund. CDs, certificates of deposit, offer guaranteed interest, but your money is locked up. A CD ladder can help with accessibility. Bonds are generally less risky than stocks, like U.S. government bonds.
But for long-term growth, beating inflation, what's the core strategy recommended?
Index funds. Overwhelmingly.
Why index funds? Why not pick individual stocks?
Because the data is just so compelling. Yes, individual stocks can have huge runs, but they can also go to zero, like Enron. The entire U.S. stock market, however, has averaged around 7.3% growth per year over the last century. And study after study shows that most active managers, people trying to pick stocks, fail to beat the overall market average over the long term, like 90% underperform over 15 years.
So why try to beat the market when you can just be the market?
Precisely. By a simple, broad index fund, like a total U.S. stock market fund or an S&P 500 fund, you get instant diversification at incredibly low cost. The source suggests maybe adding a small slice, like 5%, of an international stock index fund for global diversification.
And what about balancing stocks with bonds? Asset allocation.
Keep it simple. Decide on your split, maybe 80% stocks, 20% bonds when you're younger, shifting more towards bonds as you near retirement. You can achieve that with just 1-2 stock index funds and 1-2 bond index funds. Ignore the noise about gold or REITs or complex strategies, especially inside retirement accounts. Simplicity wins.
Okay, simple index funds. But taxes can eat into returns too, right? How do you minimize that leak?
Tax optimization is huge. It's not about evasion. It's about using the rules strategically. It boils down to when you pay taxes, before you invest, or when you withdraw.
Run through the main account types again based on taxes.
Okay, 3 main buckets. 1, tax-deferred, tax-free contributions. Think traditional 401ks, traditional IRAs, SEP IRAs, HSAs. You get tax deduction now, your money grows tax-deferred, but you pay income tax on withdrawals in retirement. 2, tax-free withdrawals. This is the Roth IRA and Roth 401k. You contribute after-tax dollars, no deduction now, but qualified withdrawals in retirement are completely tax-free. Growth is also tax-free. 3, taxable accounts. Standard brokerage accounts. You invest after-tax money, and you pay capital gains taxes on profits when you sell.
And you mentioned the HSA having double benefits.
Yeah, it's unique. Tax deduction going in, tax-free growth, and tax-free withdrawals for medical costs. And after 65, it's like a traditional IRA for anything else. Plus, don't forget that dependent care FSA for pre-tax childcare money. Maximize those tax advantages.
Now, there's a really clever strategy for early retirees to access retirement funds before age 59 and a half using these accounts, the Roth conversion ladder.
Yes. This is a cornerstone strategy for early retirement. Here's how it works. You take money from your traditional pre-tax IRA or 401k and you convert it to a Roth IRA.
Okay.
You have to pay income tax on the amount you convert in the year you do it. That's the cost. But here's the magic. 5 years after the conversion, you can withdraw the converted amount, not the earnings yet, from the Roth IRA completely tax-free and penalty-free, regardless of your age.
So you start converting amounts each year, 5 years before you plan to retire, creating a ladder of funds that become accessible penalty-free each year.
Exactly. You bridge the gap until age 59 and awake. Often, early retirees live off their taxable accounts for those first 5 years while the law seasons. It's a powerful way to unlock tax-advantaged money early.
Makes sense. Grant mentions his own portfolio wasn't purely index funds, though.
Right. He acknowledges holding some individual stocks he really believed in, Amazon, Facebook, Apple. But he strongly cautions against this for most people, especially starting out. Recommends no more than 5% of your net worth in individual stocks to avoid concentration risk. Stick mostly to diversified index funds.
So putting it all together, automation is good, right? Set up automatic 401k contributions.
Automation is great. Essential even. Set up those automatic contributions. But the source argues it's not enough if you want to accelerate things. Don't just set it and forget it.
What's the recommended hybrid approach?
2 parts. 1, keep increasing your automated contributions. Nudge it up 1% every few months. Make it a habit. 2, manually invest any extra money from side hustles, bonuses, found money as soon as you get it. Don't let it sit in cash. Even if it's just $50 or $60, get it working immediately.
What about those micro-investing apps like Acorns?
They're fine as a supplement, maybe good for getting started, building the habit, but they're unlikely to be sufficient as your primary strategy for reaching financial independence quickly. You need to be more intentional and invest larger chunks. Every dollar invested today is buying future freedom. 7, real estate investing, leveraging other people's money.
Okay, moving beyond stocks and bonds. Real estate comes up as another major pillar for wealth building. What's the unique advantage it offers?
Diversification, definitely. But the big one is leverage. using other people's money, specifically the bank's money through a mortgage, to control a much larger asset.
So mortgages can actually be good debt in this context.
They can be. You're borrowing money to acquire an asset that has the potential to generate cash flow through rent and appreciate in value over time. And often you can get into real estate with relatively low down payments, sometimes as little as 1.5% for certain loan types.
What's key when getting a mortgage?
Shop around aggressively for rates. The Force emphasizes that even a seemingly small difference, like 2% over the life of the loan, can translate into hundreds of thousands of dollars in extra interest paid. Also consider 15-year versus 30-year mortgages. 30-year has lower payments, but 15-year builds equity much faster and saves a ton on total interest.
There's also a really powerful tax advantage unique to real estate investing, the 1031 exchange.
Yes. This is huge. If you sell an investment property, not your primary home, the 1031 rule allows you to roll the profits directly into buying another like-kind investment property, deferring capital gains taxes potentially indefinitely.
Deferred indefinitely.
Yeah, and if you hold the property until you pass away, your heirs typically inherit it at a stepped-up basis, meaning that deferred tax liability essentially vanishes. As the book says, you can't do that with stocks. It's a massive incentive for long-term buy and hold real estate investors.
Now, shifting mindset again, thinking of your own home as a financial tool. This is where house hacking comes in.
Exactly. House hacking is basically finding ways to have other people pay your mortgage, or at least part of it.
How does that work typically?
The classic way is buying a property with multiple rooms or units, maybe a duplex, triplex, or just a larger house living in one part and renting out the others. The rental income covers some or all, or even more than, your housing costs.
So you could live for free, potentially.
Or even make a profit. Renting out extra bedrooms to roommates, listing a basement apartment on Airbnb, those are common examples. Adam's story is great. Bought an 8-unit building at 24, lived in 1 unit. The rent from the others covered his mortgage and gave him an extra $2,500 a month cash flow.
Incredible at 24. Are there other ways besides renting units?
Sure, things like house sitting long-term for free rent, or maybe bartering services, being a live-in nanny or groundskeeper in exchange for housing. Creative ways to slash that biggest expense.
When people invest in real estate beyond their home, there are 2 main strategies, right? Flipping versus holding.
Yeah, basically. Flipping is buying, fixing up quickly, and selling for a profit, potentially using 1031 exchanges to roll gains. Buy and hold is about long-term ownership, collecting rental income, and benefiting from gradual appreciation.
For financial freedom, which strategy does the source emphasize?
Cash flow. Definitely cash flow from buy and hold rentals. While appreciation is great, it's not guaranteed, and you only realize it when you sell. Consistent rental income, on the other hand, can directly cover your living expenses now, allowing your other stock market investments to keep growing untouched. Having a portfolio of, say, 5 properties generating $6,250 a month in positive cash flow, that's financial independence right there for many people.
So if someone listening wants to find good rental properties, what are the key tips?
2 main things. 1, develop clear investment criteria. Decide on your niche. Are you looking for studios near a university? Single-family homes in a certain suburb? Multi-units? Specializing helps you spot deals and understand a market deeply. 2, focus on immediate positive cash flow. Don't buy based only on hoping for appreciation. Run the numbers. A common guideline is the 1% rule. Does the expected monthly rent equal at least 1% of the total purchase price, including repairs? And ideally, you want rent to be 10-20% above your total mortgage, taxes, and insurance (PITI) payment to cover maintenance, vacancies, and provide a buffer.
Always run the numbers for cash flow first.
Yeah.
But yeah, this idea of optimizing big expenses extends beyond housing too, right? Like transportation.
Oh yeah. Call it a reverse house hack for your car. That average new car payment over $500 a month? If you bought a reliable used car for cash instead and invested that $570 monthly payment, after 20 years, that could grow to over $187,000.
Just from skipping the car payment.
Or even better, not owning a car at all if possible. Saves the average person over $8,000 a year. Using public transport, carpooling, ride-sharing, massive savings potential, plus less hassle.
And travel. You mentioned travel hacking. How does that work?
It's about strategically using credit card sign-up bonuses, airline miles, hotel points, finding fair loopholes. Grant claims he barely paid for flights for 7 years, visited 20-plus countries, often flew business class, mostly for free by mastering these systems. It takes effort, but the value can be immense if travel is a priority for you.
Lastly, food. Another big category. Simple tips there.
Cooking at home is almost always drastically cheaper than eating out or getting takeout. That restaurant markup is huge, 400% on a steak, for example, Weigh the convenience cost. Maybe fancy sushi is worth it occasionally, but a simple sandwich probably isn't worth the premium. And basic stuff. Buy in bulk when practical. Use Amazon Subscribe and save for staples. Look for discount gift cards for restaurants you frequent. Small savings add up across these big categories.
Might. The meaning of freedom. Living your design life. All right, we've covered a ton of ground. The core strategies from chapters 1 through 14. Let's bring it home. What does retirement actually mean in this context? It's not just about stopping work, is it?
Not at all. The definition here is crucial. Retire means having enough money so you never have to work again out of necessity. It's achieving complete financial freedom.
Freedom.
The ability to do whatever you want with your time. Grant considers himself retired, but he still works, makes money. The difference, he does it because he wants to, on projects he enjoys, on his own terms. The financial pressure is gone.
But that freedom, all that unstructured time, it can actually be a challenge for people when they first reach it, right? The what now feeling.
It's a very real phenomenon. You spend years intensely focused on hitting this number, and then you hit it. And there's this void. The source strongly emphasizes you need a plan for what you will do with your time. You need to retire to something, not just from your job.
What kind of things do people retire to?
All sorts. Pursuing passions, starting passion projects or new businesses just for fun, volunteering, traveling extensively, getting super fit, spending quality time with family, whatever you've always dreamed of doing but didn't have time for.
The book shares some really inspiring stories of people who achieve this early. Can you remind us of a few?
Yeah, they really show the diversity of what's possible. Steve and Courtney, remember them. Disliked the IT job, saved 70%, retired at 35 with 890 KA. They bought an Airstream and started traveling the country. Their net worth actually grew to over $1 million after retiring. Michelle built a successful blog, made $1.5 million from it. Now works maybe 10 hours a week, travels full-time with her husband and dogs. Anita, the lawyer who saved 85%, retired at 33 from that high-stress career that led to depression, found happiness simply by regaining control over her time. Justin, civil engineer, got laid off at 33, ran the numbers and realized he was already financially independent. Now spends his mornings reading in a hammock. Just simple time freedom. Brandon, web developer, got big raises, worked remotely, saved up to 85%, retired at 32. Now he makes music and teaches personal finance.
It really shows financial freedom isn't about becoming a billionaire. It's about designing your life true to yourself, not what society expects.
That's the core message.
Okay.
Money is the tool. The life you design is the goal.
Okay, so you've hit your number. You're financially independent. How do you actually use the money? How much can you safely withdraw each year?
The key is to withdraw as little as practically possible, especially early on. Keep the bulk of your money invested in compounding. This protects you against sequence of returns risk.
Sequence of returns? What's that?
It just means that bad market performance in the first few years after you retire can have an outsized negative impact on how long your money lasts. If your portfolio drops significantly right after you stop earning income, withdrawing even a seemingly small percentage can deplete it much faster.
So how do you manage that risk?
Strategies include having a cash buffer, maybe relying more on bonds or cash during market downturns, and withdrawing more from stocks during up markets. The commonly cited safe withdrawal rate is around 3–4% of your portfolio value in the first year, adjusted for inflation thereafter. That's generally considered very conservative and likely allows your portfolio to continue growing over time.
And accessing retirement funds early. We mentioned the Roth IRA conversion ladder. That's key here too.
Absolutely crucial for early retirees under 59.5. Start those conversions 5+ years before you need the money, pay the tax, let it season for 5 years, then withdraw the converted amount penalty-free. It's the main way to tap into those tax-advantaged accounts early without penalties.
Okay, all these strategies are great on paper, but they only work if you actually do them consistently. This brings us to the future optimization framework, right? Building the habits.
Exactly. Success isn't about one big move. It's built on consistent daily, weekly, monthly actions.
What does that look like? Give us the highlights of the framework.
Okay, it breaks down into routines, daily, like 5 minutes. Check your net worth, glance at accounts, read some financial news, real articles, not just headlines. Invest something, even just $5, into an IRA or brokerage. Review your job benefits. Are you maximizing them? Brainstorm 5 quick side hustle ideas. Reach out to 3 people, networking, crucially. Practice saying NO to things that aren't priorities. Schedule JOY. Disconnect, put the phone on airplane mode sometimes. Set boundaries with email meetings.
Wow, so a packed 5 minutes, but powerful habits. What about weekly?
Weekly, Maybe 10 minutes, check how your income streams are performing investments, side hustles, rentals, review your credit card charges, look for errors, waste optimization opportunities. Monthly, about 1 hour.
Yeah.
Really review your savings, total dollars, and percentage rate. Challenge yourself to increase the rate by at least 1% if possible. Pay bills manually? The source suggests this helps you feel the expense more than auto pay, potentially uncovering savings.
And longer term.
Quarterly, annually, do a deeper dive. Analyze investment performance against benchmarks. Review your tax strategy. Look closely at your income streams, which are growing, which need attention.
It really drives home that success is built on daily habits, small, consistent actions.
Totally. And habits take time to form, maybe 30 days of consistent effort before they feel automatic. But that initial push pays off massively.
There's a final piece of wisdom in there, too, about balance.
Yeah, chill as hard as you hustle.
Yeah.
It acknowledges that while intense focus for a few years can buy you decades of freedom, you can't burn yourself out completely. Self-care, balance, enjoying the journey, that's essential too. Remember the ultimate point, life money. Money is just the tool to optimize life and time. Outro.
So, after this deep dive, covering those core ideas from chapters 1 to 14, what's the big takeaway for you, our listener? This isn't just about stacking cash, is it?
Not at all. It's about gaining control. Control over your most finite, most precious resource, your time. That's the real prize.
And the core message is,
money is not the goal. Time is. Financial freedom, the freedom money buys, lets you choose. Choose what brings you joy. Choose how you spend your days. Choose to be present with loved ones. It lets you design your life.
And the path there, boosting income, optimizing savings, managing expenses, strategically it's achievable, right? Maybe 10, 15 years, maybe even 5 if you really hit the accelerator, as the source says.
Absolutely achievable with focus and consistent execution of these principles.
Okay, let's leave you with a final thought to chew on, a provocative question based on everything we've discussed. If you truly, fully embrace the idea that every single intentional financial choice you make today is literally buying you more future time, more freedom, what one single thing would you do differently in your life, starting right now?
Something to really think about. We hope this deep dive has given you some valuable tools and perspectives. We encourage you to reflect on your own situation. Maybe start your own deep dive into your finances and begin taking steps towards the freedom you want.